Yes, we're live.
Good afternoon. I'm Roy Priest. I'm the chair of the Housing Opportunity Commission of Montgomery County, and I want to welcome you to our June 8th, 2022 monthly meeting. Before we get started, I'll introduce to you the other members of the commission who are present. Fran Kelleher, who's our vice chair, Rick Nelson, who is our chair pro tem, Jackie Simon, commissioner, Linda Kuhn, commissioner, and we also are joined online by Jeffrey Rekowitz, who is at home, but doing us virtually. This is a hybrid meeting where commissioners and staff are present at our headquarters office, and the rest of you are joining us by YouTube. So we welcome everybody to this meeting, and let me say, I hope we look at the agenda, because this is going to be a long meeting. And so, welcome your seats for the long ride. First, before we start into the formal agenda of the meeting, this is the first meeting since the commission has in fact announced and put out public information about the next executive director of the Housing Opportunity Commission, who will be Chelsea Andrews. And she'll be joining us formally at the July board meeting, and she officially starts work on July the 11th, 2022. But I would like to take this time to thank Kayleen Brown personally, who has been acting as the executive director since our previous executive director terminated his employment with HOC. I want to personally thank you, Kayleen, for your indulgence, your tenacity, your patience, and your effort to keep the agency going while we've been in this hiatus transformational period. So thank you very much for your work. Thank the staff for what you've done to support her efforts. And we look forward to continuing to work closely with you as we move forward. So thank you very much. The first, if you see the agenda, there's no modifications or revisions to the agenda. We will proceed with the agenda. The first items are information exchange. I don't think we have anyone who registered for the community forum. So we will proceed with the report of the acting executive director.
Good afternoon, commissioners, HOC staff, the viewing public. For the record, my name is Kayleen Brown, and I'm acting executive director. Wow, it's been an interesting 10 months. But before I go into the executive director's report, I really would like to thank the commission for its support over the last 10 months. And I especially want to thank the executive staff and all of the staff of the Housing Opportunities Commission for its support as we transition into the next era of the Housing Opportunities Commission. It's been quite interesting, to say the least. And I know I've said interesting twice in the last 10 seconds, but I'm not sure what else to say. In any case, for the last 10 months, I've been reporting about a highly dedicated staff who has been serving the customers during very difficult times. And I'm sure many of us have been doing it with a smile, and sometimes not, because we've been struggling with serving our own families, taking care of our own families, our extended families, our community, and sometimes our own health. But we've managed nonetheless, and our resident services staff, I speak highly of them, but they are on the front lines. Our resident services staff, our property management staff, our property maintenance staff, they have been on the front lines, putting themselves at risk, ensuring that our households are safe, that they receive the services that they deserve, and that HOC continues to be the service provider that we're proud of. And so the staff has to take full credit for all the work that they've been doing, and again, putting themselves at risk. From the resident services group, our service coordination unit have continuously provided counseling, referrals, and other kinds of services, including workshops, assistance with relocation and certification, community outreach, just in general, ensuring the well-being of our customers. And that says a whole lot because these have been really difficult times for us. They've all in the name of getting people housed and keeping them housed, and also helping them reach their highest potential through the HOC Academy, the youth and adult education programs. The supportive service staff also, they're dealing with the most challenging part of our population, and yet they continue to provide service with a smile. And it's been difficult because the phone calls that I receive daily, it's incredible. And some of these customers that we're serving, it's almost impossible to provide the depth of help that they need. But our service coordination unit, they still try, or supportive service staff, they still try to reach as deep as possible. And that team has to be commended. Not to be outdone though, our family self-sufficiency group, they are working constantly to help our staff reach their fullest potential. And I would like to highlight for this last month, we've called up about 35 participants in our program for participation in our Housing Choice Homeownership Program. There's a slot allocated, approved slot for 25 participants. And of the 35 that we called up, 6 were approved to participate in the Housing Choice Voucher Homeownership Program. And we expect to continue to work with them to add them to the 12 that are already participating in that program. Our Housing Choice Voucher Program stands steady at a utilization rate of 94%. And in response to the Commission's challenge for staff to work with participants who face termination from the program, the Housing Choice Voucher team has been digging in a little bit more deeply and reaching out and helping participants who are facing termination, and ensuring that they can at least be helped and not and terminations don't go all the way through. And furthermore, the Housing Choice Voucher staff is also working with providing referrals when there are issues of potential discrimination to the Human Rights Commission. So that's been making a difference, and thank you for really focusing us accordingly. So shifting a little bit to activities at the County Council, in May, affordable housing really took a center stage at the County Council, in that the County Council approved an additional $40 million of funding for affordable housing, in particular for the preservation of naturally occurring affordable housing. And they also approved the second tranche of funding for another housing production fund, which is really part 2 of the first housing production fund for HOC to issue another $50 million in bonds to promote the production of new housing and, more importantly, affordable housing in the county. So that was a great effort more than effort, terrific action by the County Council, and we now need to get going on producing and preserving more housing. There's also continued discussion about creating a much larger preservation fund as the county continues to lose existing housing without restrictions. So we're looking forward to working on that effort. And then because we have a very long agenda, I'll keep us brief. HOC had 3 marked events on the real estate side. First, the Wheaton Gateway Sketch Plan was approved by the Planning Board on May 25th. And this is a pretty big milestone for us because we're on our way to getting preliminary or site plan approved, so that by 2023-24, we hope to close on the financing, at least on the first phase, and to start the vertical construction of the multi-phase Wheaton Gateway development. So kudos to the team for having reached that milestone. Second, and at long last, and I'd like to ask the team to turn to page 11 in the presentation. I think it's page 11. And what you see here is, at long last, we've demolished a Holly Hall. And I think this is a pretty dramatic graphic, in that at the top you'll see the Holly Hall as it was, and halfway through is the demolition, and the last on the bottom is complete demolition of Holly Hall. And this paves the way for the construction of Hillendale Gateway. So yay to the group for reaching this other very important milestone. And then finally, HOC closed on the acquisition of 212 units on Battery Lane. It's another important preservation in Bethesda that will preserve 212 units of naturally occurring affordable housing in Bethesda. The commission supported this acquisition, the county as well. And this is an important acquisition for HOC. If and when the commission approves some kind of redevelopment of the site, HOC, unlike other developers, will ensure that no net units will be lost at this site. And this is important because it's part of our mission in preserving what's there on the ground today. And so that concludes my report for today. Thank you for indulging me. And again, thanks for the opportunity to have held down the fort at HOC until the commission made the decision to select a permanent executive director. And again, thanks to the HOC team. Team HOC has been terrific, and I appreciate everybody's support.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any questions?
I have a question and a couple of comments, or a few comments. One is, I will add my appreciation that was expressed by the rest of the board to Kayreen for all her service during these past 10 months. It was yeoman's work and highly appreciated. I also want to thank the staff for doing that follow-up with the residents who were facing termination from their vouchers. I think, you have added to some stability in those residents' lives, which I think will, go a long way. So, thank you for that. Also congratulating the staff on that additional $50 million for HPF. But so the one question I did have was, I saw in the packet that we were having some difficulty enrolling participants in the rent supplement program. And I just wanted to ask about that and, what's behind that difficulty.
Hello, can you hear me?
You'll have to come to the mic.
Can you all hear me?
Hi, Darcel, yes.
Yes, we can hear you, Darcel.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay, hi. This is Darcel Cox, the Chief of Compliance, and I'm overseeing all of the rental assistant programs. So I would say the major with the CDBG, which is we're wrapping up this week, the issue has been we need, first of all, this one requires several documents, and some of the customers either do not want to submit the documents or they don't have everything that's needed. One of the major issues is that it is COVID impact, but they have to prove the COVID impact, and many of them do not have it. They don't have a COVID impact. So to date, we have 7 approvals. And we have several other programs that, again, we're doing is taking the applications of those who did not qualify for CDBG, and we're seeing where we can place them in other programs in hopes that we can support them with something else. You have additional questions?
No, that's helpful. Thank you.
How many families are in this program?
In the rent supplement program,
Yes.
there's about 260 right now. We have a little for additional slots, we just have a hard time getting more information. For a lot of reasons, that should not turn into documentation primarily.
And it also requires that the applicants be employed. So that's also one of the issues that we're facing with getting folks in.
And if people are taken off the wait list to participate in that program,
do they lose their place for vouchers or?
No,
No, it's
they
an
do not.
interim.
Yes,
Right.
they do not lose their place.
They still remain on wait.
Good.
If there are no other questions or comments, we will proceed with the commissioner exchange. Any information?
Yeah, I just want to add my support to the words of the chair and Jeffrey, and thanking and congratulating Kayleen on her 10 months as acting executive director. But I also add, we look forward to continue service as a deputy executive director. But the other thing I wanted to do, and it relates to the comments that were in her report related to the county council. I want to say thank you to the staff and to point out to the staff that we have not had the opportunity to listen to any of the hearings that the council has had. You guys are doing a great job because they appreciate the work of HOC. Every time they have a hearing, recently at least, they are full of praise for the work of HOC. And that's because of what the staff has done, and particularly during the period of COVID. And if it hadn't been for that, we wouldn't get the money that we're getting and the really active support of the county council. So I just want to say thank you. And the county executive, I'm sorry, you're absolutely correct. The county executive has also been laudatory of HOC and our work. So all of that is a credit to you guys.
I would also like to thank Kayleen, and I would say that you didn't just hold the fort down. You actually improved the agency in several areas. I think that the information we are receiving about operations within HOC is far superior to what we were getting a year ago. And I think that that is thanks to you. And it certainly helps us do our jobs better. And hopefully that will help all of you in some way going forward. I'm also convinced you're going to be a far better deputy because you have had this experience and have a deeper understanding of the many, many tentacles of HOC and the many ways in which the staff can be challenged by situations. So thank you very much. And we're very much looking forward to your new wisdom in the role of deputy.
And I must say also, Kayleen, you did an amazing job. You came to come in for 10 months with probably felt like 10 years to you. 10 months and we appreciate it. And thank you for the information that you give me. We give great information about things that you can do before. So I'd like to also add my thanks and compliments. I feel that we have been provided more information about the operations side of the agency, the services to our residents, which are really critical. That's why we're here. And how we do it is the development, but it's understanding both the challenges that the residents face and the solutions that you cooperatively achieve for them is, and with them is exceedingly noteworthy. And I appreciate the help of the staff in helping us better understand the challenges and ways to increase our support of moving people to their highest and best and allowing them to move to their highest and best. So this has been a very productive year in spite of COVID, in spite of a change in executive leadership. And when you see the audits that come in with no exceptions, and it's exceedingly gratifying. And I think I speak for all my colleagues when I say we're happy to be part of the team. And we acknowledge that these achievements would not happen without the time and effort and energy that you all put into it. So we thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Just one last comment. Between now and our last meeting and today, we also were one of the major sponsors for the Montgomery County Affordable Housing Conference. And you know, I thought it was fairly good attendance given the COVID situation and just large meetings and the fear that a lot of people have about super spreader events. And so I thought that the turnout was good. I also just wanted to acknowledge a number of people came up to me relative to the program booklet about the display that we had in the booklet, where they really were trying to seeing all the things that HOC was doing and our advertising. So I want to acknowledge that we were able to, I think, put out best foot forward in that regard. And thank the staff for the work they've done to get that done. So we'll be part of that again next year. And we'll talk about further how HOC is involved in the Affordable Housing Conference for 2023. Thank you all very much. If nothing else, I will move the agenda to the approval of minutes from the minutes of May 4th, 2022, and the approval of minutes for the closed session for 2022. Can I get a motion?
So moved. I second.
It's been probably moved and second to approve the minutes of May 4th for our open meeting and our closed session. Are there any questions? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. So ordered. Next order of business is our consent agenda. We have 3 items before us. We will take them separately because each of them has no resolutions associated with it. The first one is the appointment of Secretary Treasurer and Executive Director, which is Resolution 22-30. Can I get a motion to approve Resolution 2238?
So moved. Second.
Have we moved to second without any questions? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. The next item is the approval to appoint commissioners to the Board of Directors of various development corporations. Resolution 22-39. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move.
Second. It's on the move to submit to approve Resolution 2239. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. And third item for consent is the approval to increase the executive leadership service pay wage schedule, which is Resolution 22-40.
So moved.
The move and a second.
I second.
It's been finally moved and seconded to approve Resolution 22-40. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. You plan something? I'm sorry,
We can't see,
not catching the vote?
Merkowitz.
Oh,
Yeah.
Commissioner Berkowitz, are you on the phone?
Yeah, I stated aye to all of those.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, and I was raising my hand also, but I guess you guys couldn't see that.
Is it possible for us to figure out a way to keep the commissioner on rather than the speaker?
Okay, thank you.
One other question, I assume at next month's meeting, we'll have bank resolutions for the new executive director, because I noticed they weren't in this package. Don't you have to have bank resolutions authorizing?
I think resolution captures all the responsibilities of the.
I would check that, because I think before we've had issues where they wanted, I think, specific resolutions by the bank. You might check it.
Yeah, we'll confirm that.
Okay. I know that was the intent, but I'm not sure whether it's here.
We'll confirm that.
Okay.
We will now convene, we will enter the recess. We will now convene the annual meetings for the development corporations. The development corporations are entities that are wholly controlled by HOC and own various HOC properties. For each development corporation, the board of directors is comprised of the HOC commissioners, and the officers are the same as the officers of the commission. Each development corporation is being presented with a resolution that is seeking three approvals. First, the corporation is being asked to approve electing the officers of the commission as the officers of the corporation. Second, the corporation is being asked to approve the fiscal year 2023 operating and capital budgets for the properties owned by the corporation. Finally, the corporation is being asked to authorize the executive director of HOC or their designee to execute documents that have been approved by the corporation. 7 of the development corporations will also consider requests to remove the property management agreement for their respective properties, and one will be considered approving this from a prior meeting. The development corporations will now be called to order to consider the resolutions being presented. We have 20 of these development corporations that we will have to go through. But first, I now call the meeting of the Alexander Housing Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-0018H has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I move we approve resolution 22-001AH. I'll second. Linda Crowe.
It has been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those nay. The motion passed unanimously. We also have a presentation concerning the renewal of the property management agreement at the property. Who's making the presentation?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Jay Berkowitz, Asset Manager for the Property Management Division. The property management contract for Alexander House Development Corporation is expiring on June 30, 2022. The contract with the corporation files for June 30, 2023. This represents the final integrated language of the contract with prior to its expiration. Services second regular condition for the contract.
With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Berkeley Apartments Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001BC has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved. I second.
It's been probably moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Brookside Blue Apartments Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001BG has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I move we approve resolution 22-001BG. Second.
It's been probably moved and seconded to approve the resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those nay. So ordered. We also have a presentation concerning the renewal of the property management agreement at the property. For Brookside Lane.
I move that we approve resolution 22-002. BG, but is there a presentation for the staff? Okay.
For the record, Jay Brooks, Asset Manager for Property Management Division. Property management contract with Brookside Land Development Corporation is expiring on June 30th, 2022. The contract with Redwood Management Corporation provides for 1 year renewal through June 30th, 2023. This represents the final renewal allowed in the contract, and prior to its expiration, a full procurement for property management services will be undertaken. The Budget Finance and Audit Committee reviewed this request at its meeting on May 24th, 2022, and joined staff's recommendation of the Board of Directors of Brookside Land Development Corporation. Accept the recommendation to remove the property management contract for Brookside Land Apartments for 1 year through June 30th, 2023.
I second that, first motion this out.
The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Darwin Square Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001 DS has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? So moved. So moved.
I second.
It's been totally moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. We also have a presentation concerning the renewal of the property management agreement at this property.
Yes, for the record, Jay Brooks, Asset Manager for Property Management Division. The property management contract for Diamond Square Limited Partnership is expiring on June 30th, 2022. Contract with Residential One provides for 1 year renewals through June 30th, 2023. This represents the final renewal allowed under the contract, and prior to its expiration, the full procurement for property management services will be undertaken. The Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee reviewed this request at its meeting on May 24th, 2022, and joined staff's recommendation that the Board of Directors of Diamond Square Limited Partnership accept the recommendation to remove the property management contract for Diamond Square Apartments for 1 year through June 30th, 2023.
Is there a motion to approve resolution 22-002 DS?
So moved.
Thank you. It's been probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion is passed. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Glenmont Crossing Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001 VC has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved. I second.
It's been probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. We also have a presentation concerning the renewal of the property management contract for this property.
For the record, Jay Brooks, Asset Manager for the Property Management Division. The property management contract with Glenmont Crossing Development Corporation is expiring on June 30th, 2022. The contract with Edgewood Management Corporation provides for 1 year renewal through June 30th, 2023. This represents the final renewal allowed in the contract, and prior to its expiration, a full procurement for property management services will be undertaken. The Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee reviewed this request at its meeting on May 24th, 2022, and joined staff's recommendation that the Board of Directors of Glenmont Crossing Development Corporation accept the recommendation to renew the property management contract for Glenmont Crossing Apartments for 1 year through June 30th, 2024.
Is there a motion to approve resolution 22-002 VC?
So moved. I second.
Is it probably moved and seconded? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Glenmont Westerly Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001 GW has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? So moved.
I second.
It's been totally moved and seconded to approve the resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion passed. We also have a presentation concerning the renewal of the property management agreement for this property.
For the record, Jay Berkowitz, Asset Manager for Property Management Division. Property management contract with Glenmont Westerly Development Corporation is expiring on June 30th, 2022. The contract with Edgewood Management Corporation provides for a one-year renewal through June 30th, 2023. This represents the final renewal allowing the contract, and prior to its expiration, a full procurement for property management services will be undertaken. The Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee reviewed this request at its meeting on May 24th, 2022. The Joint Staff's recommendation that the Board of Directors of Glenmont Westerly Development Corporation accept the recommendation to renew the property management contract for Glenmont Westerly Apartments for 1 year through June 30th, 2023.
I move approval of resolution 22-002 GW.
I second.
It's been finally moved and seconded to approve resolution 2202 GW. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is passed. If no further business is coming before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Magruder Discovery Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001 MD has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I move we approve 2020-001 MD.
And I second.
In probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion passed. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Metropolitan Development Corporation to order. The minutes of the May 4th, 2022 meeting are being presented for approval. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
The time moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion passed. Resolution 22-003 LE has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved. I second.
It's been probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion is passed. I now call the meeting of the, with no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Montgomery Arms Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001 MA has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? So moved.
Second.
And probably will be seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Paddington Square Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-002 PS has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
I second.
And probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. The motion passed. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Cooks Hill Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001 PH has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion passed. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the RAD 6 Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001 RAD 6 has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
I second.
The properly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Scale Site 1 Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001 SS1 has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
I second.
It's been probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Scattered Site 2 Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001 SS2 has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I move we approve 22-001 SS2.
And I second.
And probably move the second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion passed. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of Florida Hills Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001 SH has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
I second.
It's been probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay, the motion passed. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the 2 PM Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001 TPM has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second. It's been probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the GPC1 Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001 GPC1 has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved. I second.
It's been probably moved and seconded to approve the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion passed. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the BPC2 Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001 BPC2 has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I move. Second.
It's been probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion passed. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the Wheaton Metro Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001 WU has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved. I second.
It's been thoroughly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion passed. We also have a presentation concerning the renewal of property management agreement for this property.
For the record, Jay Berkowitz, Asset Manager for the Property Management Division. The property management contract for Wheaton Metro Development Corporation is expiring on June 30th, 2022. The contract with Pseudo Management Company provides for 1-year renewal through June 30th, 2023. This represents the final renewal allowing the contract prior to its expiration. A full procurement for property management services will be undertaken. The Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee reviewed this request at its meeting on May 24th, 2022, and joint staff's recommendation that the Board of Directors of Wheaton Metro Development Corporation accept the recommendation to renew the property management contract for Wheaton Metro Apartments for 1 year through June 30th, 2023.
Is there a motion to approve resolution 22-002 WN?
I move. I second.
It's been thoroughly moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the HOC at 4 Corners Development Corporation to order. Resolution 22-001 OC has been submitted. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved. I second.
It has been probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. We also have a presentation concerning the renewal of the property management agreement at this property.
For the record, Jay Berkowitz, Asset Manager for the Property Management Division. Property management contract for Oaks at Four Corners Development Corporation is expiring on July 31st, 2022. The contract with Edgewood Management Corporation provides for 1 year renewal through July 31st, 2023. This represents the final renewal allowed under the contract, and prior to its expiration, a full procurement for property management services will be undertaken. The Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee reviewed this request at its meeting on May 24th, 2022, and joint staff's recommendation that the Board of Directors of Oaks at Four Corners Development Corporation accept the recommendation to renew the property management contract for Oaks at Four Corners Apartments for 1 year through July 31st, 2023.
Is there a motion to approve resolution 22-002 OC?
Second.
Is it probably moved and seconded? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay, motion is passed. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. We will now reconvene the HOC's regular monthly meeting. If you keep doing this, we'll be adding up to 25 we need to do it next time. We will now go into our committee reports and recommendations for action. The first committee report is from the Administrative and Regulatory Commission committee that is chaired by Fan Keller.
We had several large items that related to IT and were responding to comments that had been made in our audit report about formalizing some of the security practices and policies that we have around our IT system, not because there were problems, but just because in today's day, it helps to have it formalized and everyone trained and consistently. And so I would like to invite a member of the IT department to go through what is a lot of information here. We were very happy to have Pamela on our committee, since this is her professional field when we went through it at the time. She's not with us this evening, but if you could give the commissioners your background information.
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Karine Brown, Acting Executive Director. Before I turn it over to David Brody in our IT division, I'd like to give a couple of introductory remarks, and he'll carry the bulk of the discussion, obviously, his area of expertise. For the benefit of the commissioners who are not on the Administrative and Regulatory Committee, in November of 2021, the auditors for HOC, Clifton Larson Allen, delivered an unqualified, and in this case, unqualified is a good thing, audited financial statements to the commission, which the commission accepted. And along with the financial statements, the auditors also delivered a management letter with comments identifying a few deficiencies, mainly in the area of IT operations. And these deficiencies, just to be clear, did not rise to the level of material defects. They were merely comments and recommendations to improve
To achieve best practice.
right in IT operations. And so the staff has been working with our consultant from Technium, Mr. Ira Levy, to develop documents and policies from these comments, and we'll present the policies for commission approval shortly. And so there were 4 comments. 2 of them were pretty minor and were addressed last November with the delivery of the audit. But the documents, just broadly speaking, intended to, or not intended, they created a cyber incident response plan. They allowed the staff to prepare and present for the commission a disaster recovery plan, and created a strategic plan that brings into our IT operations into the current environment, that allows us to provide a clear vision and objectives, to set a roadmap to attain and maintain the IT strategy, and define metrics by which the IT division could measure its success in To manage our risk should any data breach occur, and it helps us in our bid to obtain cybersecurity insurance going forward. So these are some of the documents that were created. They were sent to you at the time they were sent to the Administrative and Regulatory Committee. And we had full discussions with the committee and also presented these materials to the auditors, and they accepted them as satisfactory in meeting their recommendations. Now, in addition to those documents, there were some policy documents that were created, and in a minute, I'll turn them over to Mr. David Brody, who will present those in a discussion with you, and resolutions are also provided to you for approval, which will allow us to implement those policies. And so if there are questions, our IT experts will answer them. And if not, I'll just have David now walk you through the next two items, which are on the agenda from the Administrative and Regulatory Committee. So, David.
Thank you, Carrie. Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, my name is David Brody. I'm the Manager of Technical Operations for the IT Division. So the first item I'll be discussing is the Information Technology and Acceptable Use of Information Technology Infrastructure and Resources Policy, which I'll be referring to as the IT policy from this point. The IT policy has been modified to reflect current processes and risks, and will supersede the technology policy, which was last revised in April 2006. There have been many changes in technology and business operations at HOC since 2006. This IT policy takes into account necessary processes and inherent risks to reflect HOC's current operating environment. The purpose of the IT policy is to ensure organizations manage IT infrastructure and systems so that IT resources and services are available to support business operations effectively. They also ensure continuity and compliance with regulatory, legal, and statutory requirements. The IT policy outlines expectations and guidelines for those who use and manage IT resources and services in alignment with current IT practices and risk considerations. As such, it offers standardized approach to operational guidelines addressing user responsibilities and prohibited uses, intellectual property, privacy, monitoring, reporting, violation, and disciplinary action. Users are required to review and acknowledge the IT policy. We want our users to be conscious of their responsibility to perform their duties in accordance with these policies and guidelines to ensure system and data security as well as to act in the best interest of HOC's community. The Administrative and Regulatory Committee informally reviewed this item at its meeting on May 6, 2022, and supports staff's recommendation that the Commission approve the resolution which implements the policy on page 250. And we ask that the Commission join with staff recommendations in the policy's approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions?
With that, I would move that we approve the policy that has been developed for technology acceptable use and make it the HOC official policy. Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to approve resolution 22-41. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion carries. Next item.
Right, I have just one comment. I appreciate all the work that the staff put into this, creating this policy. It's one thing to have a policy, and of course, it's another thing to follow it. So I encourage staff to read it and to I assume there'll be work to educate the staff of this policy and take steps to make sure it's being implemented properly.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You'll be glad to know that at the committee meeting, one of the recommendations was to add a training section.
Yes,
which,
and it has been added.
which staff
Yeah.
has done, that training is as important as having the policy. So Jeff, your thoughts are already being baked in.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, again, my name is David Doherty, Manager of Technical Operations for the IT Division. The second item I'll be discussing is the Information Security Assurance Policy. The Information Security Assurance Policy will supersede the Technology Policy, last revised April 2006 in conjunction with the IT policy. In general, IT security policies help to ensure that organizations and businesses secure sensitive information and mitigate risk or security threat. They also provide measures for corrective action and audit. The security assurance policy reflects HOC's current processes and risks in response to changes in information technology systems infrastructure, new technologies, and user environments since 2006. This is a comprehensive policy that addresses security controls for a multitude of categories, some examples of which are employee and management responsibilities, antivirus, anti-malware, and software, encryption, mobile device management, security awareness training, and telework, which is being presented as a separate policy. These are some areas that have seen some of the most dramatic changes over the last decade, which was a major impetus for the development of this policy. Embedded in this document at Chapter 8 is the telework policy, which is included as a separate document and resolution for your approval. This policy also incorporates the newly developed data classification guidelines, which Kayleen referenced earlier. The Administrative and Regulatory Committee informally reviewed these items at its meeting on May 16, 2022, and supports staff's recommendation that the Commission approves these resolutions. There are two resolutions for your consideration. One approves the Information Security Assurance Policy on page 263, and the other approves the telework policy on page 264. And we ask that you join in staff's recommendations in the approval of these policies. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions.
With that, I would move that we approve the Information Security Assurance Policy and the telework policy in resolutions 22-42A and 22-42B. So moved. Second.
And probably moved and seconded to approve resolution 22-42A and 22-42B. Can we do both of those at the same time? Can I get a motion to approve? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So with nay, to hold it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Whoever thought that technology would take us to the dark ages with all these policy requirements?
Yeah. It's an ever-changing world.
So we will now over to the financial audit committee, Chair Mr. Nelson.
The first item for the F&A committee is presentation of the third quarter budget to actual statements for FY 2022. And making that presentation is Tony Wheaton.
Yes. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The agency ended the quarter with a net cash flow surplus of $4.1 million, which resulted in the third quarter budget to actual positive variance of $2.8 million. The general fund experienced a positive income and expense variance as a result of savings and expenses coupled with additional development fee income.
Excuse me, but can you speak up, please?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
The general fund experienced a positive income and expense variance as a result of savings and expenses coupled with additional development fee income offset by lower draws on the OHRF. Several of the unrestricted properties in the Opportunity Housing Fund underperformed budget expectations as a result of overages in various expense categories coupled with lower tenant income. The voucher program experienced a higher administrative surplus through March 31st of 2022 as a result of higher than anticipated administrative fee income, countered by negative variances in administrative expenses. The Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee reviewed this request at its May 24th, 2022 meeting and joined staff's recommendation that the commission accept the third quarter fiscal 22 budget to actual statements.
I would move adoption of resolution 22-43. Except for the third quarter budget. Okay.
I second.
It's been probably moved and seconded to approve resolution 22-43. Are there any questions?
Yes, I just have one. In reading that, the Paddington Square seemed to have higher than usual utility bills. And this is related to Opportunity House. Maybe I'm ahead of you. But with solar having been installed there, I know it was relatively recent, but was there a particular reason that you can identify as the
I don't know if Nathan has anything to add. For the record, this is Terry Fowler, the Budget Office of HOC. Most of our overages in utilities are water and not electric that would be affected by the solar. Some of that has to do with various properties where they get reimbursements from tenants and aren't getting the reimbursements. Other properties have had some water leaks, and staff is working with WSSC to address those leaks. But it's typically water where we're seeing these significant overages in utilities throughout some of our properties.
Thank you.
Could you go back to the one where it said vouchers? Go back to that when you took a higher, it was higher. I don't have glasses, so I can't see it. But I heard you say it's something about housing choice vouchers took a higher.
Yeah, we actually receive higher administrative fee income.
For housing choice voucher?
Yes.
Positive. Okay. Okay.
We like that.
Yes.
It has been probably moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So ordered.
The next item on the agenda is the calendar year 2022 first quarter budget amendment for Metro Point Apartments. And is that you, Terry?
Yes.
Terry Fowler.
Good evening, commissioners. We are bringing a first quarter budget amendment for calendar 22 for the Metro Point Apartments Limited Partnership. This budget will increase the capital budget by approximately $45,000 from approximately $330,000 to $375,000. The Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee reviewed this request at its meeting on May 24th, 2022, and joint staff recommendation that the commission accept the calendar 22 first quarter budget amendment for Metro Point Limited Partnership. And I'd be happy to address any questions.
Any questions?
I would move resolution 22-44 for the first quarter budget amendment for Metro Point Apartments.
I second.
It's probably moved and seconded to approve resolution 22-44. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered.
Thank you.
The next item is uncollectible tenant accounts receivable. And the presentation is going to be made by
I will be presenting, Commissioner. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Eugenia Pascual, Controller. The current policy of HOC is to provide for an allowance for tenant accounts receivable balances that are delinquent for more than 90 days and to propose the write-off of former tenant balances, which updates the financial records and to accurately reflect the receivables, and the potential for collection. For the third quarter of fiscal year 2022, which covers January 1 to March 31st, 2022, the proposed write-off is about $127,000, consisting largely of opportunity housing properties, collectibles. The primary reasons for the write-offs includes tenants who skipped or voluntarily vacated their units, tenants who purchased a home, those who left because the unit needs to be repaired or renovated, tenants who passed away, tenants who no longer qualify for certain affordable housing programs. The Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee reviewed this request at its meeting on May 24, 2022, and joined staff in its recommendation to approve the proposed write-off for the third quarter of fiscal year 2022 for $126,000 and $942. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Any questions? If there are no questions, I would move resolution 22-45.
I second.
The party moved and seconded to approve resolution 22-45. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed with nay. So ordered.
I might also add on that item, staff is also looking more closely into some of the reasons for the non-payments and there's some other steps that can be taken to collect balances. The next item is the acceptance of calendar year 2021 non-income housing tax credit partnership for limited liability companies. And that is approved by somebody again. Eugenia, are you doing that also?
Yes,
Yes, yeah.
sorry, I can hardly hear. Sorry,
I'm
Commissioners.
sorry.
All right. Again, good afternoon, everyone. The agency has completed the audits for 15 tax credit partnerships that require an audit for calendar year 2021. A standard and qualified audit opinion was received for all the 15 tax credit partnerships, which include Hamden Lane or Lasco Manor, Thayer, Alexander House, Arcola Towers, Bower Park, Forest Oak, Green Hills, HOC at Georgian Court, Shady Grove, Stewartown Homes, Upton, Spring Garden, Tanglewood and Sligo, Waverly House, and Wheaton Metro Point. Excuse me. The audits for CCL Multifamily LLC, who owns the Linley and Westside Shady Grove, were also completed and received the standard and qualified audit opinion as well. The Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee reviewed the request to accept the 15 calendar year 21 tax credit partnership and the CCL Multifamily audit at its meeting on May 24, 2022. The audit for the Westside Shady Grove was completed after the meeting on May 24th and is included in this full commission packet. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Any questions?
I'd just like to make a comment. I am in awe of accomplishing 15 audits with no observable acceptance. And I think it's remarkable. And I really congratulate the staff for their diligence and competency.
But if there are no more questions, I would move acceptance or approval of resolution 22-46.
I second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve resolution 22-46. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
The next item of business is the extension of the use of credit facilities. And presenting that is Eugenia again.
Yes, sir. The commission has previously authorized the use of the PNC 60 million line of credit and the 150 million real estate line of credit or RELOC to fund the interim financing need of 10 properties and developments, which include Montgomery Homes Limited Partnership 7, Fairfax Court Apartments, Laytonsville at Brookville Road, Lindsay Ford Holding Site for Wheaton Gateway, HOC Fenwick and Second Headquarters, Brook Park Apartments, MPDU 64, Ambassador, Avondale Apartments, the old properties, and Year 15 Litek Properties. The commission authorization will expire on June 30, 2022. The total amount drawn that are still outstanding for these 10 properties was 38.6 million as of April 30, 2022. The total estimated annual cost is approximately $748,000 based on the taxable and tax-exempt contract rate with PNC Bank. The BFNA committee reviewed the staff request for extension at its meeting on May 24, 2022, and joined staff in its recommendation to extend the use of the line of credit and RELOC through September 20, 2024, which will be coterminous with the expiration of the PNC LOC and RELOC. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Are there any questions? I would move approval of resolution 22-47, approval to extend these facilities.
Second.
Been probably moved and second to approve resolution 22-47. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed is nay. So ordered.
I would also add on that item, I made the comment before, that the ability of HOC to use these facilities has tremendously helped us in our ability to do a variety of different things, some of which weren't even envisioned to use these credit facilities in the beginning. But it's been a really important resource for the staff in terms of doing the work of HOC. Thanks.
And if I may comment and thank our colleagues who work so diligently on these budgets and the amount of time that you devote to the scrutiny and development of the budgets and tracking things. I think it's the hardest working committee of the commission, and I thank you all.
Well, we read these 507 pages a number of times. But the staff had to put them all together. That's a significant task.
I will say the only saving grace in getting through the brief book was that it was my second time seeing most of it.
That's true. The next item is the procurement of inspection services. And I think, Lynn Hayes, you're up with this.
Good afternoon, commissioners. For the record, I'm Lynn Hayes, the director of the Housing Resources Division. Ali Kadimon, program coordinator, will be presenting this item.
Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Ali Kadimon. I'm program coordinator for the inspections team within the Housing Resources Division. The reason that we appear before this commission today is to request a one-year renewal of the existing contract between HOC and our inspection company, Inspection Experts Incorporated. Hereinafter, I'll refer to them as IEI. IEI is an approved woman-owned small business which excels in the performance of inspections both for the federal government and the private sector. The Housing Choice Voucher Program requires participants to complete certain inspections in order to ensure that their units are kept in a safe and sanitary manner. This is required by HUD and Chapter 10 of HOC's administrative plan. There are 5 types of inspections needed for this program: initial, annual, complaint or special inspections, move-out inspections, and quality control inspections. IEI conducts every one of these inspections. However, the contract to carry out this essential function expires July 1st of this year. The renewal contract generally contains the same terms as the original agreement signed in 2020, with the exception of a few provisions that we recently added. I'll go over this provision briefly. That IEI will use Yardi Voyager for all data entry, that they will conduct quality control inspections, that they will conduct virtual inspections in lieu of in-person inspections, if requested by the customer, that they will conduct carbon monoxide inspections starting December 27th of this year, and that they will conduct roughly 18,000 of the aforementioned inspections for HOC. I'd also like to add that IEI may conduct radon inspections and lead-based paint inspections, and even inspections for HOC's supportive housing program within Resident Services Division. At this time, we kindly request that the Commission follow staff's recommendation to renew the contract between HOC and IEI. And we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? So one question is, how has the COVID experience impacted the inspection protocol?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. How has
the COVID impacted inspection protocols?
In 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic began, I believe there was a period for about 1 or 2 months where inspections were not conducted for obvious reasons. The nation was nearly on lockdown. Thereafter, we began to do virtual inspections, and HUD authorized this as well. Since then, and in my brief tenure taking on this position, there's been more and more willingness to do in-person inspections rather than virtual inspections, which of course surpass virtual inspections as far as quality of inspections. But I understand if customers or landlords are hesitant to conduct in-person inspections still.
I'd be interested in knowing, how do you do a virtual inspection?
Virtual inspections are done remotely by telephone. So if you are an Android user, our inspection company, IEI, they use Google Duo. And if you are an Apple user, they conduct it via FaceTime. Of course, for more vulnerable or elderly customers, they will always opt in for an in-person inspection. Or if landlords dispute an inspection finding, again, they opt for an in-person inspection.
Are there any other questions?
What is the time limit on an inspection? If you're moving in, how long would it take for you to get inspected by IEI?
That's a good question. It depends when the request for tenancy approval is submitted. So in my experience, by the time a customer submits a RFTA, request for tenancy approval, and by the time that we get the request and schedule an inspection, I don't believe it's any more than 2 weeks. 14.
The requirement is that we must inspect the unit within 15 days of receipt of the request for tenancy approval.
That, speaking as a realtor, however, that is a lengthy time of income loss, and particularly during COVID, when there's so many other things affecting income loss for the landlords, it's difficult. And I know and have had clients who have been landlords, and that's the one concern that they have about participating in the voucher code. And so I would hope that there's some way that we can continue to reduce the number of days that a property is held off the market for the inspection.
Sure, I think IEI has informed us that they have additional inspectors that they can add to our portfolio based on the needs. So certainly that's something that we'll monitor and work with them to streamline and, reduce that time.
And I know that it's not just us in Montgomery County or just this agency, but that's been the major objection to the Home Act and the extension of protected class status for, based on source of income. So I think anything we can do to reduce the barrier to recruiting holding landlords, but also allowing families to move more quickly, the better we'll be. And I would really hope that we can begin to see that time period contract. And the other question I had was related to county mandated inspections. Now, are these inspections in addition to county inspections, or does the county recognize these inspections in lieu of their landlord tenant inspections?
No, they don't recognize these. The criteria is different. So totally different. Their criteria is a little bit more stringent than the housing quality standards, which were mandated by.
Okay. I don't know what it is now, but I know at one point in time, HUD had a very sophisticated monitoring system with annual inspections. And would significantly use that as a basis for performance evaluation of authority. How are they dealing with that now on the annual inspection?
Commissioner, our inspection company is actually using HUD's inspection checklist. If you Google HUD's inspection checklist, the first result will reveal the PDF of, as you said, very detailed items that need to be inspected throughout the unit. And that's the checklist that our inspectors use. That hasn't changed whether it's a virtual inspection or it's in person.
Yeah.
And this contract covers those annual inspections.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Have we given up the idea of trying to merge HQS and 26, chapter 26? There was a time when we were working on trying to have a single.
I think HUD turned down our request for that exception.
I thought it was county that was reluctant to accept it.
But HUD turned it down because, I mean, you were saying that 26 is more stringent than
Yes.
HQS. But I thought HUD turned it down because there was something in HQS you didn't have covered in.
I don't know. The inspections oversight is just newly under my management. So I don't know the history of why it was not accepted by.
I mean, I've never.
But we certainly can,
I would urge you to look at it again because I've always been under the impression that chapter 26 of the local code is more stringent than REACT, which means that if you had a unit that complied with 26, it was going to automatically comply with REACT.
Right.
But for some reason, I didn't approve it. And it doesn't make sense to me. So I just would encourage us to maybe look at it. Maybe we got some new actors who might look at it differently. It seems crazy to have a separate inspection for the county and a separate inspection for the HUD. It's silly and expensive.
And it's intrusive on the resident.
So I would appreciate it. That's something we've talked about for an extended period of time. Okay. Any other questions? Having milked that one, I would move approval of resolution 22-48.
I second.
It's been probably moved and second to approve resolution 22-48. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered.
Next item of business is the procurement of property management services for a number of properties, and I guess Nathan, or you, or Jay, or whoever is going to make the presentation.
Good morning, commissioners.
It's not moving yet.
Good evening, commissioners, staff, and people who are listening on YouTube. We are here today, and my name is Nathan Bovell. I am the Chief Maintenance Officer and the Acting Director of Property Management for HOC. And we are here today to request the board's approval to extend several property management contracts. This extension is for 9 properties that are managed by 6 different property management companies. The properties include Alexander House, Cider Mill Apartments, Forest Oak Towers, Georgian Courts Apartments, Green Hills Apartments, Stewart Homes, Westwood Towers, and Metro Point, which all expire on June 30th, 2022, and also for Fenton Silver Spring, which expires on August 29th, 2022. I did want to mention that there was a slight oversight in the book where we didn't reference the background of Bozzuto. We put background information about each property management company. Bozzuto was a company that provides services throughout the Mid-Atlantic area. They've been providing property management services since 1988. They've managed 4 of our properties
They have always performed well and provide quality services to our residents. And we're here to request to extend these property management contracts. We did present these requests to the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee, and that committee approved us to move forward with the full board. And I have Mr. Jay Berkowitz, our most tenured asset manager here at HOC, to answer any specific questions that you might have.
Are there any questions? I'm going to just make a technical correction. The discussion with BFNA resulted in BFNA agreeing with you that recommendation should go forward. We did not approve the report. That's not a function of BFNA.
We will take it.
Are there any questions? From no questions, I move approval of resolution 22-49.
I second.
Seconded to approve resolution 22-49. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So ordered.
Thank you, Commissioners. Have a question.
Thank you. The next item.
What's that else? Elizabeth House 3.
I'm just, you won't know it. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the approval for property management services for Elizabeth House 3. And I believe Mr. Martha Servant is going to make that presentation.
Yes.
Commissioners, for record, Marcus Irvin, Director of Real Estate. HOC here to present the approval to procure property management services for Elizabeth House 3. On April 22nd, HOC issued a request for proposal 2323, soliciting responses from qualified property management firms focused on leasing up and achieving stabilized occupancy by October of 23 for HOC's under construction EH3 mixed-use development, which includes 120,000 square foot SCRAC South County recreational aquatic facility located under the residential component, also including the Holy Cross Health System. Anticipated delivery schedule, the project is under construction with various elements of the exterior, framing throughout, drywall installation, and also finishes. Included a graphic below that just summarizes the current state affairs at the property. Depicted in orange rather, floors 4 through 9 of the residential component in orange are all under a final painting, work on final items, including a punch list. Floors 10 through 16, the upper levels are final painting and flooring installation underway. Delivery for those areas will be late August for core and shell, which includes life safety, elevator, sprinklers, with substantially completed units, the 267 of those for lease up right in that time period. This will allow access to the residential common areas to begin leasing. SCRAC in public portion highlighted in green. Drywall and ceiling installation are underway on those levels. Delivery current plans for these areas to be substantially completed will be by the end of 2022, which includes the pool, fitness, Holy Cross, and other areas to allow turnover to DGS. As we shift into the RFP process, staff received 4 proposals in total on May 16th, 2022 from both local and national companies, which included Darren Property Management, Edgewood Vantage, Habitat America, and Mellon Property Management. The list that the proposals were sent out to was approximately 300 or so. Within that vendor database included other property management companies who we do have existing relationships with, some both past and present. The proposals were scored against several criteria, including responsiveness to the RFP, experience and qualifications for the subject property, MFD designation, management fee and vendor costs, past performance and customer satisfaction as submitted in the proposal. After review of those proposals, staff recommends that the commission authorize the acting executive director to negotiate and execute a property management contract with Habitat America, also known as Habitat. From the proposal that was submitted, Habitat offers valued experience and management services for market rate and affordable multifamily apartment communities in the area. Over 55% of their portfolio is comprised of senior communities. Habitat America is committed to provide the highest standard of service in every aspect of property operations, including lease up, stabilization, accounting, marketing, and compliance. The firm has more than 30 years of Mid-Atlantic experience in property management. To further demonstrate an understanding of the target markets, location, psychographics, which essentially is who are the people that are going to occupy these units at the end of the day, and what is it that they're looking for. They demonstrated an understanding of that. Also, HOC's immediate need to ensure successful lease up and marketing of the community. Habitat was the sole respondent to provide a detailed marketing media schedule and management plan tailored to EH3 development, beginning from notice of work release. Selection criterion. There's 6 various criteria in the RFP as mentioned, including responsiveness to the RFP, experience and qualifications of the staff, MFD designation, vendor fee and costs and additional costs on staffing, past performance as provided from their references in their proposal, and also customer satisfaction. It's also included performing all compliance with fair housing responsibilities as outlined in the proposal. As we go to slide 6, just a summary of the respondents. Darien Property Management, a Bethesda-based firm, failed to adequately provide the requested information regarding the company's staffing history, management plan, and other components. No references of property metrics were provided. Edgewood has managed a partnership with HOC for nearly 23 years. Properties consist along the Northeast, include senior tax credit and family communities. Staffing included several property management executives and professionals with over 20 years experience. Various affordable housing and compliance program references were provided along with background and relationship. No property metrics were provided. Habitat, as previously described, is a certified women-owned business enterprise that has nearly 30 years managed affordable and tax-free communities similar to EH3 and others in the HOC portfolio throughout the DMV and for similar nonprofit and for-profit developers. The portfolio consists of nearly 105 properties, close to 9,800 units throughout the Northeast. Once again, they did provide a specific and tailored report on the management plan from day one for award, which the scoring committee taken to account on how to capture the lease and traffic, make sure the property meets stabilized occupancy within the goals set forth in the project. Lastly, Mellon Property Management out of Bethesda, minority women-owned business with more than 18 years of property management experience, providing service to Maryland, Virginia, and Arizona and Texas. While the company did provide a management plan to address planned leasing activities, their portfolio and experience was comparatively less than the others. They also didn't provide a specific staffing plan for the undertaking. Final scores as provided had Habitat America at the highest at 87.25, Edgewood Management at 77.63, Mellon at 47.5, and Darien at 10.25. On the next slide, just breaks down the fees. We'll see between the two, Edgewood Management and Habitat America, that the fee was pretty much line in line at 3.5% of gross rent collection, which would be subject to final negotiation by the acting executive director. Lastly, on slide 8, the selection of the property management firm. Just to recap, staff is proposing a 2-year management contract with Habitat for EH3 with 2 1-year renewals in accordance with HOC's procurement policy. Once again, the company founded in 1988, headquartered in Annapolis, women-owned firm, 9,700 units, large diverse property of affordable and senior communities in the area, long-standing relationships with similar and comparable governmental, nonprofit, and for-profit entities in this space. Additional strengths, 81 properties in the past and current portfolio or new construction communities that they managed from inception. 34 additional past and current communities older that were acquired by developers and also include low-income housing tax credits. Experienced key personnel staff. They also have experience working with HOC Jardy They maintain strong resident relations and currently managing for senior communities, including Willow Manors, which are in renovation and Forest Towers. Lastly, so will the commission accept staff's recommendation, which is supported by the Budget Finance and Audit Committee, to grant its authorization to award the property management services contract to Habitat America for the management of Elizabeth House 3. Taking questions they have at this time.
Yeah, I do have questions. When I reviewed this particular commission, I was concerned that I had never seen these specific selection criteria approved by the commission. I went back to 2019 to look at other actions that the commission may have taken related to property management contracts. There's only been one issued in 2019, that was for Lindley. And when I looked at the Lindley RFP on selection criteria and compared that against the selection criteria that are being proposed for this particular procurement, they were significantly different. Significant difference in the fact that one, the experience factor that in the Lindley was evaluated at twice the level that was in the proposal. It went from 50 to 20 points in experience. I have not seen these articulations defined in these criteria that we have approved as commissioners, nor the weighting of the points that were awarded. They have significantly changed from what was the only procurement we received. It's interesting because we, just earlier in all of the development corporation meetings, we have approved extension and renewal of contracts. And most of the work that we have done in the commission related to property management has been on the renewal of property management contracts. Now, of course, we're going to have a hard time to look at next year because this final year is coming up for those that we just approved. These criteria should have come before the commission for approval. They did not. And for that reason, I am objecting to this, and I'm going to vote no for this particular action because of the fact that we are not giving authorization to the staff to use these particular selection criteria for this contract or any other property management contract other than the one that we submitted for the lending. And I also have a concern that you glossed over it in the presentation, but you are also requesting the commission to approve this contract paying more per unit per month for this contract. The bidder recommended a price of $44, of $49. And the other bidder, the bonus one, it was the lower bidder was at $45, $44. So the $5 per unit per month difference between what you're recommending and the low bidder. And I know this is not a low bid contract, but I want to know why you are recommending to us selecting the higher bidder for this contract than normally what we are usually doing.
Yes, so the fee proposal, as they articulated in the proposal, they 3.5% of the gross rent collected, so they have to provide a funding. So typically in property management contracts, there's a percentage of the gross rent collected or the dollar amount per unit once it's finalized. So between those two, that's just how the metric is. But I do hear your point regarding that.
Would you go through that again? You just said that they both said 3.5%.
Can we go back to that page?
A fixed dollar amount or 3.5% of gross rent collection.
I'm trying to understand the explanation he just gave us. Go through that again.
So yeah, the higher up 44 unit per month or 3.5% of gross rent collection. So this will be subject to final negotiation. But that's how they provide it in their.
I thought you were saying they were saying. The fact is, there is currently a difference of $5 amount unit month growth between the two.
And then to the other point, just about between the two, as mentioned, the committee felt that the proposal submitted by Habitat was specifically addressing property needs as opposed to what the company can provide, rather how the company can provide for HOC and the asset in the lease of others.
And I was pleased to see that we had two female-owned, woman-owned firms submitting proposals. And I am pleased that a significant number of units in their management or Habitat America's management are new construction communities, because I think there are different issues sometimes between new construction and properties that are older, and you've got the rent up and so forth. So
I think Roy is raising an interesting point about the fluctuation from RFP to RFP in terms of how we score and weight various different things. There has not been, to my knowledge, policy about that, and the procurement policy doesn't specify that.
Right.
I would like to suggest that, especially given the number of these property management contracts coming up next year for complete renewal, that we take a serious look at that, and that you bring forward to us a recommendation on a template for RFP evaluation for property management. It is a large part of our expense budget in terms of where our money goes. And I think it's well worthwhile that we do. I know that for some of our contracts, for the banking contract, for the audit contract, the board does at the committee level see a draft RFP before it goes out. So could we request that we take a look at a template for an RFP for property management so that we could come to some alignment and consensus on how we want to evaluate these going forward, with so many coming up for complete renewal next year?
I don't think you have to ask the question. I think you can make a request that was done.
Yeah, and perhaps some guidance would be helpful as to, perhaps some guidance would be helpful as to what specifically the commission wants to see, other than just a template.
Let me say it something. Number one, I think that to my knowledge, there is no official policy in terms of whether or not the commission approves or doesn't approve an RFP.
Correct.
That's one that we need to address, whether in going forward, we want to do that or not. I think we need to address whether or not there is a standard template for all, or do you have a different template for resident management versus other services. But the other comment I would make is that in the history of the BFNA, at least the last few years, there have been a number of occasions where the committee has raised questions about the RFPs, the evaluations, and what appeared to be somewhat some uneven evaluations. So I think staff was trying to be responsive to that by coming up with this new proposal for this particular procurement. I think some valid questions have been raised. I would urge us as a commission to task the BFNA with working with the staff to in fact bring forward a proposed policy that would reference the RFP and your template and what approval process there is, so that we can really answer that. One of the other reasons that it is so important, and I think you alluded to it, is these RFPs reflect the priorities of the commission. I mean, the commission, for example, has been very strong in trying to encourage minority participation among our contractors. How does that fit into the rating criteria for an RFP? Same is true in terms of, you mentioned price. You could have an RFP that says it's price-based, and the low price of a high price is depending on procurement. wins. That's not been the case with HOC, but the question is, how much do we value? Is it 50 points? Is it 20 points? So I think that needs to be explored, and I would suggest that we spend a work session with the BFNA to go through or more, to go through those kinds of issues and try to develop a formal policy. On the other hand, I would not suggest that should interfere with moving forward on this. I would support this particular procurement.
Well, I think I agree with all the points that you all are making on that. But I have a problem because the fact that the commission is responsible for policy. And when you say to me that we don't approve an RFP is driven by what? If it's driven by selection criteria that are delineated in the document and say this is the basis that we're going to evaluate the proposal. And that decision the commission should decide on, not the staff. I'm sorry. And we decide what the value of those considerations are, made by the commission as a policy statement, not the staff. And I have a strong objection to that, and I have looked back at a number of our procurements, and I can show you where there's been a variation in the rating and the valuation you have made on the same contractor in different transactions. If you want to get into it, I can get into it in detail. But I'm telling you, I'm not going to accept this going forward. It will never happen again.
My only comment to that is, and I hear all the commissioners' comments, but my other comment to that is, I don't recall in my history here where the commissioners have approved RFPs and reviewed those selection criteria. And if that were the case, we would have brought this one forward and all the others. Notwithstanding that, I don't disagree that perhaps, as Commissioner Kelleher proposed, given the barrage of property management RFPs that will be coming forward in the next cycle, next 6 months or so, that there needs to be some kind of relook at, at the criteria. But in my history here, and it's a long history, I don't recall that the commission has directed staff to say these are the criteria that we will approve. That hasn't happened, and so we're using our best judgment and our best guidance to reflect what we believed the wishes of the commission are to select a property management company, and that's the basis on which we were operating. So I understand your comments and your objection to how this has gone, but I also, really need to defend staff's position about what we were trying to accomplish here, and I hope we're able to move forward with this given where we are. And I would also like to say that before the RFP was rewritten, the last time we went out with the old RFP and firms responded, there were 4 respondents to the old RFP when we did it back in 2019, and the outcome was essentially the same. The reason we didn't go forward with that scoring was because our procurement office advised that it was too stale and could not be used. It wasn't fair to use it because it was so much time had elapsed, or we would have brought it forward. So, it's, number of issues at play here, but staff in its best judgment did the thing that we thought was the right thing, and the outcome is as we presented it to you to the best of our abilities. So
I respect your perspective about his history, what you have done. That doesn't mean it's right. It means that you've done it. That doesn't mean it's right. Okay.
But it doesn't mean it's wrong either.
And I'm saying to you that this is the only one that's come before me since I've been on the commission as relates to changing the standards for the evaluation of proposals. The only other one was a Libby. We can go back and forth on this. And whenever I'm saying to you, I don't care. Don't ever say to me it's because we've done it this way before. I don't care how you've done it before. I don't want to done going forward anymore. And the other thing is I've run thousands of competitions with RFPs, thousands of them. And you are, and I'm gonna get into it. I will leave it there. Other comment?
I just think also that the DEF committee on occasion has questioned some of the ranking of points that were established, and we did express that we wanted more value given to women-owned and minority-owned businesses. And that was one change I think that had been made during my tenure here. And I gathered from reading some of these in the past that different people serve and different departments serve on the committees doing the evaluation, which certainly can explain a broad analysis and value given to something. If you've got a management person dealing with an older property or a large property or a small property, they may come at what they think is needed from the management company. So I respect the perspective you're bringing to us, and I think that it is useful, but I'm not convinced that you would always get the same value or number of points assigned for the same proposal. But I gather that's not really what you're trying to achieve. You're trying to achieve that the RFP clearly reflects the commission's policy on and priorities that we give to these things. And I think it would be useful to develop a master, but I think there also has to be some flexibility in values assigned based on performance and so forth, and the needs of the community, the size of the community, the experience of the company. And I don't think you'll ever get the same number of points for a given criteria, no matter how hard you try.
In line with the point that you're making, Mr. Simon, is that as in addition to the recommendation about creating a template for procurement, these kind of things, but also in order to include the creation of review standards for criteria. When you win a competition, people, because you don't have the same people look at the same RFP response, and they vary. And so people come to it with different perspectives and they read through it. And so the way you help somebody review it, you give them some guidelines. Just like, for example, the one that's in here now, it talks about, what's it one on? Customer satisfaction survey. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to do it, how do I determine how I award those 15 points?
And I was questioning whether we had satisfaction surveys from these people on our own properties.
From our own customers,
Which I know the residents have been pressing for some time, so.
We need to at least see what our residents say about some of these companies that we agree to. That's all I'm saying. I've been saying this. Ever since I've been on the committee, I want something. I don't care if it's from 10 people, but I want something, some type of a survey from the residents about because I heard a lot about Bozzuto, and some of the things that I heard was not good from residents. When I asked for this, they would say, well, only 10 people sent something in.
To that point, I know that that's not the discussion we're having here, but we have been discussing creating services for residents, so that's in works.
That should have been on the works before we.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
We agreed to all these.
You're absolutely right, and we're trying to prioritize certain things and working through various.
To jumpstart your work on that, Kevin, NARO within the last 2 weeks put out a workbook on resident satisfaction measurement. And they had a grant from Robert Wood Johnson and one other foundation. And they really have some excellent work there where they have literally already drafted and tested questions on residents' experience and satisfaction. And I think you can get a lot out of what NARO has published on that. And I congratulate them on taking on the topic and doing that. So there's definitely something there that we could work with to make it easier.
Yeah, this, I will follow this up with another motion, but I would move approval of resolution 22-50, approval to select Habitat America property manager for the Elizabeth House 3 development.
I will second that.
And then probably move the second to approve resolution 22-50.
So table, did you say that?
No, I said approve.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
No. Do we have Jeff's vote?
Yes, I voted aye.
Okay, thank you.
Motion carried.
I would.
I would just note, I mean, I was struggling to follow all of the conversation, unfortunately, because of the audio, but, Roy, I appreciate your concerns. And so, but if this was primarily an issue of weighting, I guess one way I was looking at this is that Habitat was still, the higher scorer on the individual criteria on all but price, and they weren't far behind on that one. So, if the weighting, I'm not sure that the weighting it differently would have changed the outcome.
I agree.
I would like to move that the commission refer to the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee the issue of working with staff to develop a recommendation for the commission on the RFP process. And I'm not trying to be overly general, just I don't want to be specific and leave some things out, but it would include recommendation on review standards for reviewers. It would include how you arrive at rate for the criteria and or what the criteria are. It would include items such as each individual ones come to the commission for approval. All of those things, I just can't right now off the top identify each and every item that we think the committee should look at to come up with a recommendation. And be happy to receive recommendations from my colleagues as we go forward. But the issue is that this issue should be considered by the commission. We should work with the staff and come up with a recommendation that hopefully can be discussed and approved by the full commission.
I would say I think that the criteria that were used here individually are much more finite and reflective of varying needs that we might have in a particular property. And I saw criteria used that was very constructive and had not been used, or I had not seen in prior scopes of work. So I think that this is the time, given this and the significance of this, that we undertake that. Thank you for bringing it to our focus, Roy, and I thank the staff for beginning to push the envelope and being more precise and using criteria that are meaningful, because I think tenant surveys and so forth are very useful criteria in making these decisions. And so, and dealing with mixed income properties. I think that's another criteria that appeared in this proposal that I have not seen in any of the other RFPs that came through development finance, so.
Motion been put on the floor. I will second that motion. Motion been moved and seconded. Are there questions? All in favor, move signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. Next item.
Next item is the fiscal year 2023 budget and adoption thereof. And Ms. Terry Fowler, is that right?
Yes, Terry.
Okay.
Commissioner Nelson, if it pleases the commission, I will introduce the budget.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
You were so quiet, I forgot you were there.
Hey, you know, I'm just keeping my voice. Keeping my voice is actually what I'm trying to do. Good afternoon, commissioners. For the record, my name is Tim Getzinger. I am the Chief Development Funds Officer, as well as the acting CFO at HOC. And today I will be providing an overview of the FY23 proposed budget that is being presented for adoption. This budget will set the financial plan for the next fiscal year. The FY23 proposed budget reflects the agency's continued commitment to provide innovative, energy-efficient housing, increased geographical access for families to important resources, and superior service to our customers. As such, the FY23 budget reflects ongoing investment in personnel and systems to develop, manage, and maintain HOC's properties successfully while integrating the new business model of a hybrid remote work environment developed in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The FY23 proposed budget includes a $311.9 million operating budget, as well as a $247.2 million capital budget. As a result of anticipated continued impacts from the COVID-19 pandemic, the budget is balanced with a draw from the general fund operating reserve of $1.1 million to balance the operating budget. Some of the challenges we continue to face that have affected the budget are non-receipt of rental payments, and although we have received rental assistance to address a portion of the receivable balances, current rental receipts are approximately 83 to 86% of the monthly charges, which presents an ongoing concern. A 1.4% CE voluntary rent guideline that limits our ability to increase rent on market units, a backlog of non-priority or emergency work orders due to the limitations in place to follow the COVID-19 protocol, and additional operating costs associated with COVID-19 prevention, including cleaning and PPE. I want to commend the Budget Office for its publication of a recommended operating book this year, which sought to help with decision-making and informing the Commission, as well as providing a more transparent agency. And with that said, Terry Fowler will now provide a few highlights of the FY23 proposed budget. Terry, you are up again. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening, commissioners. As Tim mentioned, I will provide a few highlights of the FY23 proposed budget, but I'd like to start off with thanking Kayreen and Tim for their unwavering support during this transitional year. They were phenomenal in helping us with understanding what the needs were, developing a budget that met those needs, and supporting us and the agency and having the whole agency come together and work towards this effort. And it couldn't have been done without their support. So I do want to thank both Kayreen and Tim and the Budget Office. And this is really, I bring the packet, but this is really an agency function, and the entire HOC team should be commended on their work that they did to not only produce the budget, but the budget book that was provided to you. Upon adoption of this budget, that budget book will be updated with the final numbers and produced as an adopted budget. Moving to the packet presented to you this evening on page 380, as Tim mentioned, our operating budget for FY23 is proposed at $311.9 million, and the capital budget is $247.2 million. As Tim mentioned, the budget is balanced with a draw of approximately $1.1 million from the general fund operating reserve. On page 381 of the packet, the proposed operating budget for FY23 of $311.9 million represents an increase of approximately $5 million from the recommended budget presented on April 6, 2022 of $306.9 million. The details of the increase are described on pages 382 through 398 and summarized on the charts on page 397 and 398 of your packet. The major contributors to the change were refinements to the restricted housing choice voucher program revenue and projected expenses, updates to the indirect cost model, which increased expenses to the income generating programs and corresponding income to the general fund for overhead, and refinements to the metropolitan properties for the upcoming renovations. The proposed capital budget for fiscal 23 of $247.2 million represents a decrease of $5.65 million from the recommended budget presented on April 6 of $252.9 million. The decrease in the capital budget projected is reflected on page 389 and is the result of adjustments to the capital budgets for Cider Mill and Dale Drive and changes in the timing and scopes for the Hillendale Gateway Senior and multifamily retail transactions. On page 404 of your packet, you will see the breakout of income with grants making up approximately 45.4% or $141.6 million of the operating income in the agency. The majority of the amount in the grants is the housing assistance payment subsidy received by HOC of approximately $113.8 million for voucher payments to landlords. This represents approximately 36.48% of the operating income. County funding accounts for another $12.1 million or 3.87%. Another 32.71% or $102 million is revenue generated by our properties. On page 405, on the expense side, the composition is approximately 74% or $230.8 million for operational expenses, with half making up the majority at 38.05% or $118.7 million. The non-operating expenses are comprised of debt service, contributions to reserve, and various transfers, restrictions of cash, and the development corporation fees from the property. On page 407 of the packet, this reflects our restricted and unrestricted revenue of the $311.9 million budget. Only $27.8 million or 8.87% is available for discretionary spending. The restrictions are either from grant or bond requirements, debt service or reserve contributions, or internal requirements to cover the costs of operating and maintaining our properties. On page 408 of your packet, the capital budget for fiscal 23 is comprised of $7.35 million for capital improvements and $239.88 million for costs related to 12 capital development projects during fiscal 23. The charts on page 409 and 410 show the distribution of the sources and uses in the capital budget. Unlike the operating budget, which does not change much in distribution of costs from year to year, The capital budget can fluctuate greatly depending on the nature of the transaction. And I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I would just want to also thank our Budget Finance and Audit Committee for all the meetings they've held with staff over the last 2 months, and for the detailed work that you all have done. And also, I really applaud the budget briefing book that was put together. That was really outstanding piece of work that was done, and really answered a lot of the questions that would otherwise have been raised, perhaps not having that available. So I want to acknowledge and say, I don't know who worked on that, but it was really good work that was done. I want to acknowledge that. Also, in the chart that you have showing you different sources of revenue and where they come from, pretty soon you're going to stretch the color palette. If we get any more sophisticated, I'm not sure what colors you're going to put there. We can differentiate enough so we can see it. But again, I find the charts very interesting, and they also simplify and really can see what's going on in terms of when you have these multiple sources of capital coming in and where they're going in. So I want to applaud that information. Other questions?
One comment I make, which I've done prior years, just to let everybody know, if you look at the size of the budget of HOC, we are one of the largest businesses in the county. And we are a contributor to the economy of the county. We're an economic driver of the county, though it is not totally realized the extent to which we affect the economy of this county. A $311 million operating budget, $255 million capital budget, and the 250 is lower than it was last year, if I'm not mistaken. That's just very, very large. And again, kudos to the staff for being able to manage all this stuff. And I don't know how the hell you do it, to be truthful. But I really do congratulate you. And I'll end that by saying I move adoption of resolution 22-51A and 2251B. Can I do them both at the same time? Asha? Okay.
I second, and I add to the kudos of the structure of the budget book, which gave a much better understanding of how the agency is all put together from various different funds and sources. So thank you all, and I second the motion.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve resolution 22-51A and 22-51B. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, so nay. So ordered. I want to thank the work of the Budget Finance and Audit Committee. We have quite a few items that come before us at the time of the year.
And now with the small budget.
One question I have. Okay, on this year, in 2023, we're talking about the use of about $1.3 million in the general fund operating reserve. What was the amount we used from 22?
We began with about a 1.5 million projection of a draw. That was amended mid-year to 1.2. And in fact, the draw that we have tonight is lower than what was in our recommended budget. I do want to stress that those are projected draws, that those funds are not taken unless needed at year end.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. We will now turn to the Development Finance Committee, chaired by Commissioner Simon.
Yes. Jennifer? And thank you. The first item from our committee is the approval of the structure and cost of issuance budget and adoption of series resolutions for the issuance of single-family mortgage revenue bonds. Jennifer? Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening. All's in your court.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Jennifer Arrington, Acting Director of Mortgage Finance, and you have before you request to approve the structure, cost of issuance budget, And to adopt series resolutions to issue up to 40 million in single-family mortgage revenue bonds for the purpose of refunding various bonds within the program's indentures and issuing new bonds that ultimately will lower borrowing costs in the program and create limited proceeds to provide new mortgage loans for first-time home buyers. Page 416. Proposed 2022 single-family financing assumes an estimated 33 million issuance that includes an approximate 14 million replacement refunding 10 series of program bonds for approximately 9 million, and the 5 million draw made in January 2022 on the PNC line of credit for the program. And the issuance, in addition, the issuance of approximately 19 million of new money. The issuance will create approximately 134 new mortgage loans for first-time home buyers. The issuance will include 4 series of fixed and variable rate bonds that will be tax exempt and tax. 417. Since 15 million of the new money bonds will be private activity tax exempt, the allocation of volume cap, page 417. An allocation of volume cap in the same amount will be required, which is available for the Commission's single-family and multifamily programs. Move to page 418. With the inclusion of variable rate bonds of approximately 11 million, liquidity will be provided by PNC Bank. Staff also proposes that the Commission enter into a swap to further lower borrowing costs. In combining the net swap payment with the variable bond rate, liquidity, and remarketing fee, the total payment is estimated to be 2.96%. Move to 492. Currently, the benefit of entering into a swap is approximately 100 basis points, which is considerably higher than the 20 to 50 basis point HOC that was used in recent years. 421. The cost to execute this transaction is approximately $535,000 and will be funded from the revenue in the 1979 venture. Next page. Kutak Rock will prepare 2 series resolutions for the 2022 bonds, one for Series A, B, C, and one for Series D, which will set forth the structure of the bond's purpose, redemption provisions, the creation of certain accounts, and the use of the proceeds, among other things. The series resolutions in your packet, 2022-52B and 52C, are included for your approval. Upon Commission's approval, we anticipate the retail and institutional bond sales to take place June 1st and June 22nd, with the closing at the end of this month on the 29th. Staff recommends the support of the Development and Finance Committee approves the actions listed on page 435. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I apologize if there's question marks in these statements.
Can you distinguish the difference between 52A, B, and C? I mean, what are you asking?
So resolution 52A is just the bond authorizing resolution, which basically says that you're telling your state, the commission is basically saying we are authorized to issue bonds. 52B and 52C are the actual series resolutions. While they're in draft form, what the commission is approving is the form of the document. As structure settles, a lot of the numbers are placed in there, certainly after the pricing, all of that goes into the series resolution. So the documents, the resolution, the series resolutions are required to be approved.
Okay.
And Marsha, can you do 52, 23, A, B, and C? The Development and Finance reviewed this and is prepared to recommend to the full commission approval of resolutions 2252A, 2252B, and 2252C.
Second. We probably need a second to approve resolution 2252A, B, and C. Are there any questions? All in favor, signify by saying.
I have a
question.
a comment. There were, and I think I brought them to Karen's attention, 4 places that it had Stacy Spahn for the signature, and it needs to be yourself or whoever at the time of signing is authorized to sign that. I would also say that in reading through this, helped me understand that we have 144 scattered sites at market rate because they have expired from, or maybe I'm jumping to a different tech. That when we do our strategic planning this coming year, I think we need to look at the market rate scattered sites and how what purpose we want those to serve in our portfolio.
Okay, yes, so those were in prior item.
Okay.
In budget discussion, but yes.
Okay.
Acknowledge and we will address that. So
Okay.
we are actually doing scattered sites and we'll address that.
Great.
Just to clarify, this and scattered sites are two separate events.
Okay.
This is for the single family mortgage program.
Oh,
Scattered sites are the original program.
forgive me.
And just one quick comment, and I guess Jennifer can confirm that this is still the case, but as I recall during our committee, we discussed the fact that even though mortgage rates in general are going up, this structure will allow us to offer mortgage rates slightly lower than what we've been offering. Is that still accurate?
Right. Yeah.
So which I think is kind of notable right now.
That really the benefit of the variable rate bond, the free down rates.
You mentioned the number of 430 loans will be available. 430 loans will be available by virtue of the bond sale.
Approximately 134.
134?
Approximately.
Where did I get 430? Did you
Because
mention
it's 430 some odd pages in the packet, I mean.
Okay. So 100, how many?
134, approximately.
Okay. It's been probably moved and seconded, I think. Yes. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I believe the next item is the selection of a financial advisor in accordance with the request for proposal 2318.
Good evening, Commissioners. Again, for the record, I'm Jennifer Arrington, Acting Director of Corp Finance, and we have a request to approve the selection of the select financial advisor to serve the Commission in accordance with RFP 2318, as the existing contract is set to expire on June 30th. On March 28th, the RFP was published on HOC's website and electronically mailed to 24 financial advisory firms, with the response date due on April 18th. Staff received one response from Kane Mitter and Associates, the Commission's current financial advisor. Based upon the lack of response from other qualified financial advisory firms, it is surmised that the market is well aware of the long-standing relationship the Commission has had with Kane Mitter and chose not to compete. Given that Kane Mitter was the sole respondent, it was determined that neither scoring nor an interview was necessary. Nevertheless, its proposal was fully reviewed by staff, and it was found that Kane Mitter meets the minimum qualifications, satisfies all required criteria, is suitable and qualified to serve as financial advisor to the Commission. And I can go over some of their highlights if you'd like.
One of the questions that puzzles me is I would also surmise that the sole respondent is accounted for by others choosing not to compete because of the long relationship. But have we gone back to any of those firms and asked them specifically? It just troubles me that there's 24 firms that received our request for proposal, and that was the only one. And we're going to be going out because this is a 1-year extension. You know, this is a new contract. The new one.
Yeah.
So I would say, I'm just going to speak about competition just in general. The proposal that we just received, the contract that we just approved for Jack Rock Bond Council. We sent that out to 45 companies. We only got 3 responses. And they were from Jack Rock, Dollar Spot, or one company. With respect to K-Litter, these speaks to some of the history of K-Litter, how they evolved over time.
I clearly don't dispute the qualifications of the firm that responded. It's just that, I don't know whether my colleagues share the question, but
I think are you asking, do we have a routine feedback loop that
yeah,
we use
is there
from
some,
people who don't respond to RFPs? I'm a huge proponent of feedback loops at all levels.
Yeah.
So I would like.
We used that recently in our search, and I think that it would be a useful tool to have, particularly when we're bringing something forward for.
But I think there's also a question of, I don't know how we get a list to send it out. How many you say we send it out? There probably about 24 firms who are qualified to be.
Exactly.
The agency audit.
Yeah.
So we send out 24, but we know they're not qualified. We send out 300 for something else.
I would just say that I wouldn't say that they're not qualified. It would probably be that we would have to hire more than just a one firm to handle what we require.
The
for our
team,
program.
a team.
Yes, it would be a team component versus just one firm.
I also think, and maybe I'm confusing with the CTEC box, but the last time we went out, didn't we have more respondents, or we had 2?
For the last procurement,
Yeah,
I think you might have just mentioned
It
was K-Litter and CSP.
yeah, I think it was, but
So
I remember having this conversation, we've had a number of times.
it's a question of how many down to 2017.
No, the question really is whether or not we had more than one respondent.
Yeah, no.
For our bond council?
Or,
Oh, no.
When we did the 2 before, we only had 2, CSG and K-Litter. And the time before that, I think that's perhaps all we had as well.
Yeah.
But to Jennifer's point, she's absolutely correct. We have to hire a team because different firms provide different services, but not the full range of what we require for a program.
Right.
I would just say from the experience that I've gained in working with them, I think that the matter is not that they have done business for so long, but they are an exceptional firm doing business with us. And I think we are very fortunate to have them want to be in this space with us. Because while we do a lot of business, the bond market is big. Okay? And the fact that they are willing to spend it and what they do with us at this level, I think is noted, to be noted. And I appreciate the fact that they stay with us this long and give us the quality of service that they've given to us. Outstanding. Can I get a motion?
So, second.
It's been part of moving subject to approve resolution 22-53. Are there any questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. Next item.
And I believe the last item before us this evening is authorization to enter into interest rate hedge and or innovation in connection with the single family mortgage revenue bonds and multifamily housing development bonds, and to execute and deliver documents in connection there.
Good evening. For the record, and the last packet, I'm Harrington, Acting Director of Mortgage Finance. And you have before you a request to authorize innovations for single-family mortgage revenue bond series 2002B and multifamily housing development bond series 2007A and B. And 2, to authorize entering into a swap with Bank of America and A in connection with the single-family mortgage revenue bond series 2021C. The commission has 3 swap transactions outstanding with Merrill Lynch Capital Services under 2 swap contracts. The outstanding swaps were issued in connection with the variable rate 2018 single-family bond from the 2011 multifamily bond. Bank of America Merrill Lynch desires to consolidate all its swaps under Bank of America NA. No terms, with the exception of the date and identification of Bank of America NA as the new counterparty, will change. Bank of America is a stronger Moody's rated entity than Merrill Lynch Capital Service, and all legal and advisory costs related to the novations will be incurred by Bank of America. Further, on May 5th, 2021, by way of Resolution 2021-45, the Commission approved issuance of single-family mortgage revenue bonds, Series 2021C, and the A and B, but related to C only, which were also variable rate bonds, and 2, authorized entering into a swap with a qualified counterparty to mitigate against a rise in interest rates. Staff has identified Bank of America NA as a qualified swap counterparty for the 2021 Series C bonds. And I'm happy to answer.
Any questions? Get a motion?
If there's no questions, I move approval of resolution 2253.
Thank you. Probably move second to approve resolution 22-54. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So voted. Request Jennifer and also to just to and HOC is uniquely positioned as an organization in what we do with bond financing. I mean, I think we are probably one of the more sophisticated agencies in the country that deals with this product, even compared to other housing finance agencies that I'm aware of, okay? And I think it would be good if we could find the time just to do a one-on-one bond financing training session.
How much time we get?
Okay, I mean, really, for the commission and maybe even for the staff. I think it would be, you know, it would be good to spread the wealth around. I'm glad to see what we do in that area, and I'm glad I'm just waiting for the bond to say will be done. But I just think going through it's something to think about. I mean,
In your spare time. In your spare time.
Yeah, but thank you very much for done in the area. Thank you. There is no other business to come before the commission. That was the last item. We do not have any items for the session. So this, in fact, will adjourn our meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
The probably move second. The meeting is now adjourned. As of what, 6:42.
That was program meetings.
And Patrice, to note that we are 2 hours ahead of the schedule.
And that's another organization that's